Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Centerville Grace Podcast, where every single week we do our very best to help you, our church family, dive deeper into community and to make sure that no one walks alone. Hey, guys, it's like 2 weeks in a row in person.
Look at us.
We're on a roll.
We're
on a roll.
Of course, I'm Tony, and on my left, your right is
Dusty. Hello.
And our fearless leader.
Hey, I'm Dave. Thanks for joining us today.
It's exciting times. We're heading towards Christmas. How you guys feeling about it?
I'm not there until like the week of Christmas, so I can't get into the mood until then. I'll be honest.
I'm foregoing my favorite Christmas tradition of the last 7 years straight, which means I am not Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve after church is over and then trying to wrap all the presents that night.
Good for you.
I think I'm ahead of the game this year, guys. I've got 10 ready to go already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm impressed you have a number. I don't.
My wife handles that department, and she does great.
We usually sit down together and open up our laptops, and we go at it that way.
Yep.
That's kind of our mode.
Amazon.
Yeah. Be in big trouble. And what happens? Oh, next Tuesday, my college kid comes home for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's great.
Do you have the whole 3 weeks planned out?
I don't have anything planned out.
Even better.
Yeah, he does.
I'm sure he does.
I don't know. I don't know if you've ever tried to plan with a college age kid, but it's like, hey, do you want to do that? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can commit to that. So it's,
You got to wait to see what's better. Yeah. Yep.
What about you? Any exciting things happening in your world?
No, just getting ready for Christmas, and then we'll be taking off to see my dad after Christmas Eve.
Dust, exciting things?
I don't think so. We were talking about going out of town, but I don't think we are at this point. So we're going to stick around and do all the events that go around Christmas.
No, that's great. We have some exciting things happening as a church, though, that I think it's important to remind everybody of tonight. If you're listening to this in real time, if you're on the stream, December 11th, tonight is our encounter night. That's going to start at 6:30. It's a nice collaboration between the worship team and the prayer team. And this is breaking news. If we had a breaking news button, I would hit it now.
Yep.
Mike Slocum built a cross from scratch, and then he got it etched with a psalm on there. You have to come and see it in person. Nope, I have a verse from Isaiah. That's what I meant to say, not a psalm. Isaiah.
Yeah, it's engraved in there. And that's legit, man. I saw just a picture you sent. I was like, wow.
It's super exciting.
It's really cool.
Super exciting. So if you were on the fence about coming to the encounter night anyway, come see the cross. It's going to be beautiful, and it'll be live and in person tonight. And then I think you'll see it around the church. It's mobile, so you'll see it around the church going forward. So
a mobile cross. Is he going to take his cross and go home?
Take his cross. Only if he walks.
Only if he walks. Yeah.
Oh, it's a bad Jesus joke. And then we have the family meeting coming up.
That's right. So after second hour this Sunday, we're going to be talking about all things last year and next year. So if you're not a member, that's okay. Come anyways. It's for anyone who calls Centerville Grace their family, and it pays to be there to know what's going on and what God has done to celebrate. So.
One of the things I appreciate about our community is that we're incredibly transparent. So if you come, you're going to get a really kind of a behind-the-scenes look at the budget, and you and I think maybe the elders are going to.
All of us are going to be there. Yeah. I'll probably be leading it, but yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
And then just a couple weeks away from that is the big event, the 24th. What are we doing on the 24th there, Dusty?
We are celebrating Christmas Eve at 3 and 5 p.m.
Now, how do we come to those times? People ask me this question all the time. How do you decide when to do Christmas Eve?
We have a dartboard, and we just throw at whatever time it is.
Really depends what time one of us needs to be done to go do the next
that's
day.
right. I'm trying to catch dinner at 7. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I've found is just over the years, families especially have really appreciated going a little bit earlier on Christmas Eve as opposed to going later and later. And it's easier on our volunteers and anybody that's serving in the church as well, because we can meet a little bit earlier, do something very family oriented, and then everybody can go off and spend time with their families for the remainder of the night.
Yep.
I think most people forget that if you've never served on the worship or media team, those teams usually get to church 90 minutes before everyone else does. And, some of our leaders in those areas, 2 hours before everyone else does. So if you're talking like a 3 p.m. worship time, usually means what time are you getting here?
Probably like noon.
Yep.
And then the rest of the crew starts to roll in, hopefully 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then we're going,
it's a long day.
It's
a long day for them.
I mean, it's obviously it's a labor of love and it's an act of worship, and we are so thankful for everyone who says yes. But we're just trying to be mindful always to watch the trends of the people and then make it accessible for our whole church family.
Yeah, I think people like to have a Christmas service and then go out to dinner or do something else with their family. So that's what we're trying to accommodate. Yep.
Yeah.
What time was the Christmas service when you went growing up?
We would always go to the 11 o'clock to midnight hour. Yep. Candle lighting. Yeah. And as a college student, I loved it.
Yeah, same, man. I had a whole route of churches I was working at the time. So
Just did your circuit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, stop at the Lutheran church. We do these 2 service times. Go over to the Baptist church, do these 2. And I go back to the Nazarene church, actually do their midnight service on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
So that was the route.
We do the late. We used to do the late service pretty regularly, and then 11 to that midnight hour. And we still might try to catch a evening service somewhere too later, just because I like to see what all the churches. When you're in the church world, it's fun to be kind of church nerdy.
Yep.
And so I might, but I also might watch them online.
That's the power of online now. Yeah.
It is.
Check it out that way. Yep.
So speaking of church, why don't you take us into the text this week? Dave, we're kind of we're still in Luke.
We are
still in Luke, but it's almost done.
We are landing the plane soon.
Ooh, praise the Lord.
All right, so we're going to be reading Luke 22, starting in verse 66. This is actually NASB, which we can get on the screen if you're watching online. And here's what Luke records. When it was day, the council of the elders of the people assembled, both chief priests and scribes, and they led him away to their council chamber, saying, "If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe, and if I ask a question, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated on the right hand of the power of God." And they all said, "You are the Son of God, then?" And he said to them, "Yes, I am." Then they said, "What further need do we have of testimony? For we have heard it ourselves from his own mouth." And then going to 23, he says, "Then the whole body of them got up and brought him before Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, 'We found this man misleading our nation and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king.' So Pilate asked him, saying, 'Are you the king of the Jews?' And he answered him and said, 'It is as you say.' Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, 'I find no guilt in this man.' But they kept on insisting, saying, 'He stirs up the people, teaching all over Judea, starting from Galilee, even as far as this place.' When Pilate heard it, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. And when he heard that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who himself also was in Jerusalem at that time. Now Herod was very glad when he saw Jesus, for he had wanted to see him for a long time, because he had been hearing about him and was hoping to see some sign performed by him. And he questioned him at some length, but he answered him nothing. And the chief priests and the scribes were standing there, accusing him vehemently. And Herod with his soldiers, after treating him with contempt and mocking him, dressed him in a gorgeous robe and sent him back to Pilate. Now Herod and Pilate became friends with one another that very day, and before they had been enemies with each other. Pilate summoned the chief priests and the rulers of the people and said to him, "You brought this man to me as one who incites the people to do rebellion. Behold, having examined him before you, I have found no guilt in this man regarding the charges which you've made against him. No, nor has Herod, for he sent him back to us, and behold, nothing deserving death has been done by him. Therefore I will punish him and release him." Now he was obliged to release to them at the feast one prisoner. But they cried out all together, saying, "Away with this man, and release for us Barabbas." He was one who had been thrown into prison for an insurrection made in the city and for murder. Pilate, wanting to release Jesus, addressed them again, but they kept on calling out, saying, "Crucify him, crucify him." And he said to them the third time, "Why? What evil has this man done? I have found in him no guilt demanding death. Therefore I will punish him and release him." But they were insistent, and with loud voices asking that he be crucified, and their voices began to prevail. And Pilate pronounced sentence that their demand be granted. And he released the man they were asking for, who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder. But he delivered Jesus to their will.
Here's my first question.
Yes.
What's your relationship with Pilate like? And when you think about Pilate, because this text gets a little like I just don't know. I don't know about Pilate. What do you think when you think about Pilate relationally? Like to yourself. I know you probably don't think about Pilate.
I was thinking about this the other day. What's my relationship to Pilate? Not really. Wow, that's a question I've never been asked before. So let me think about that. I would say my thought of Pilate seemed like he was a weak leader, and so he just gave in to the crowd. He knew what was right and he didn't do it. So that's how my view of Pilate. I don't have a lot of respect for Pilate, I guess, is my relationship to him. I mean, he was in a tough spot. I understand as a leader. Trying to keep in peace and trying to keep his job. It's tough, but obviously he failed as a leader to me. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I'm more curious about yours. When you ask relationally, like I'm more curious about what are you thinking? What's your relationship to Pontius
Do
Pilate?
you have a relationship with Pilate?
We're friends on Facebook.
Oh, cool.
Thanks for streaming, by the way. Shout out Pilate.
Yo, Pete.
I feel bad for him.
Do you?
I have a tremendous amount of empathy for Pilate.
Wow. Wow.
Because I feel like maybe I feel like I've been in situations where the crowd is like out of control and he knows the right thing to do, but also like there's the pressure of his role. And whether or not do you think he could have not?
Absolutely.
Dust, what do you think?
I mean, he could have, but there would have been consequences.
Right.
Like, I mean, like
He was just in a bad spot.
Yeah. Like
It's
I think he knew the right thing to do, but he's like, well, I'm stuck, right?
It's really easy for me to vilify Herod. It's much harder for me to vilify Pilate.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
Right. Yeah. Because you guys have a relationship. I understand.
That's why.
Maybe I should lay down and we should really work through this.
I don't know if you have a relationship with Herod like you do with Pilate, but
No, I did see Journey to Bethlehem last year. So now, did you see the movie?
No, I have not.
Did you see the movie?
No.
It's a musical, by the way. I interviewed the director on my podcast, so I got to see it. And Antonio Banderas plays Herod.
Wow, cool.
It's actually pretty good.
Does he play him well?
Well, I don't know Herod like I know Pilate. So.
How accurate to the real Herod was he?
He brooded a lot. He brooded a lot.
I only see Antonio Banderas in one movie where he's got all the guns in the guitar case. What was that?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
So that's how I picture him, not anywhere else.
I don't know if I know which one that is.
No, he was an assassin.
Yeah. So Pilate, I mean, really, you have empathy for Pilate?
I do.
I really think, to me, Pilate could have just as easily said, "Forget you guys. I got Rome behind me. Like, I'm not going to give in to this time." But I don't like peer pressure. This is one of those things for me. Growing up, I felt like I was able to resist peer pressure a lot more than maybe others, because to me that was the cue. If more and more people are trying to get you to do something, to me that was the cue of you probably shouldn't do it. That was like more. It was just more logical not to do it than to do it.
How's that relate to pastoring?
It's a great question.
Oh, we're here now. We're in it.
Great question.
Now you got me curious though.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
No, that was a later one. That was like the sequel.
Oh,
Desperado, not Desperado.
I mean,
it is Desperado.
Is it Desperado? Okay.
Desperado.
Yeah. Yep.
I was thinking
There we
Shrek
go.
the whole time. With that, but
I was thinking Puss in Boots.
sorry, that's where I was stuck.
Okay, back to pastoring.
Back to pastoring. I don't know how to answer that one. But yeah, it's tougher as pastoring for sure. But
Yeah, because I feel like you're probably in that situation a lot as a pastor, right? Where it's like, hey, I feel maybe there's a right, but there's also what maybe people would want me to do, but maybe it's the right thing, maybe it's not the right thing. Like, how do you lead through that?
yeah, so with like peer pressure, it's like an actual people are physically coming up to me all at once saying, you need to do this kind of thing. And that, to me, that's the cue. I think the hard part with pastoring is not knowing where everyone stands and not knowing always what is the right thing or wrong thing. Because it's not a right or wrong decision. It's just more of a wisdom decision. And that's where and I like to go off of, when it comes to like a wisdom decision, I like to often like ask you guys and try to get a plurality of voices in the table, like at the table, to come up with what's the wise thing to do. So that's a little bit of a different And deep down inside, like with peer pressure in high school, I knew what the right thing to do was,
Yeah.
And to me, that's this. He knows what he is calling it out 3, 4, 5 times. Like this, he's innocent, he's innocent, he's innocent. I know what the right thing to do is, and I'm not going to do it. That's my problem with Pilate.
I wonder how much of like when you think of politicians, like not to take it too far down that trail, but
Pilate was a politician in a way. Yeah,
so it's like, hey, who are you? If you are truly working for the people and that's what the people want, that's where I think the empathy kind of comes in, at least for me, where it's like, it's, it's like today, you'd have the power of the government behind you to make one choice, but you also have your constituents that maybe are coming to you and saying, this is not what we want. Which way do you go?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of church world too, when you have like, you're shepherding a group of people that you care about, what they think in a way that you want to care for them. And so, yeah, you want to take what they have to say in for sure. And, but to me, the Pilate thing's totally different. The Pilate thing it's a right or wrong, black and white thing with Pilate. No? No?
I'm a no. That's a no for me, dog.
Here's an innocent man going to get murdered, basically.
Okay, let's keep it in context, though. Is that they probably were murdering innocent people all the time? That doesn't make it right or wrong.
I don't know if they were innocent. Not in their eyes. I don't think they were innocent in their eyes. Like, Rome doesn't go around killing innocent people.
Right. I mean, they certainly bullied a lot of people.
Sure. Right.
Right. Which now we're just drawn thin line. I don't know. Here's the thing: if there's an angry mob, what about the safety of everybody else? Like, I know the right thing to do, but like, man, it's just hard when there's all these people in front of you chanting, and the tradition was to give them what they want, not what you want.
Well, and that was a bad leadership move too, right there.
Was it his, or did he inherit it?
I think he did it. I think he started it. I think it said in the text somewhere that he would do it. So to me, that was a bad move too. I mean, that's just playing American Idol, and
you just give them what they want, and they'll just
give them what they want.
Raising kids essentially is the same as managing a mob. I don't know. Any thoughts?
No, I just keep going back. Like, so we did this workshop. I don't know if people are watching. We did this Working Genius workshop this past week.
Oh yeah,
and
on
Monday.
Yeah. So like thinking through like what is the gift of discernment, right? And all this stuff. Because when it comes to pastoring or whether it comes to maybe politics, like there's a difference between discerning through wisdom, what's the right thing to do, where it's probably a more nuanced decision, right? So like that's kind of where I lean towards, like this may have been more nuanced than it seems. And then the question is like, hey, was there any discernment there from Pilate's point, or was it just, hey, I know I have to go with what people say, or else maybe he'll get killed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the assassination attempts looked like back then in terms of politicians, what that relationship looked like. But there's all kinds of dynamics there that I wish I knew more
Here's
about.
a game I want to play. This is a good one.
Okay.
Rank the bad guys in this story from worst to least worst.
Well, how many bad guys do you see in the text?
How many do you?
Wait, how many characters were you? What's our character list?
I mean, there's the Pilate,
Pontius,
Herod.
Pilate, Herod, right? And then what about the chief priests?
So the Council of Elders.
The Council of Elders, and then the crowd,
The crowd.
right? And then do you want to throw Judas in there for good measure?
If you want to, that's fine.
All right, go. All right, I think that's probably it. And what about Barabbas?
Okay. All
right.
That's a lot of categories. So
Well, it's just I want you to rank them.
from worst bad guys,
worst to least worst bad guys in the story, in your opinion,
bad guys in the story. All right.
or maybe most culpable. I don't know how you want to say it, right? I don't know
Who's
how you
to
want to
blame?
interpret.
Is that
Just
what you
like
wanna-
out of the people that you don't like in this story.
Who do I don't like the most?
Who do you don't like the most? Because this story is emotive, right? Like there's
Sure.
a ton of emotion in this text.
Judas first, right? Come on. We're all probably gonna pick Judas first, right?
I'm going chief ruler. I'm going elders.
Really? Okay.
They
All right.
set Judas up.
He didn't have to go along with it.
Listen. We were just talking. I'm not going to bring that idea up here, but we were just talking about some kind of fringe theology around Judas. But I'm going to go elders first.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like I need more time to think through this.
No, this is
do.
rapid fire.
Rapid
We
fire.
do.
Judas.
I'm going elders than Judas.
There's too much empathy to be had here for different
All right,
positions,
I'll switch
man.
those two. I'll do Judas and then elders, and then I'm gonna go Pilate before Herod. Pilate, Herod. I know I'm messing you up. Pilate, Herod, and then Barabbas, and then what was it? The crowds.
The crowds, yeah.
The crowds and then Barabbas. I feel like Barabbas has nothing to do with
Right. He was just an insurrectionist.
and a murderer, but but not towards Jesus. Like it wasn't like
He was Jesus adjacent.
Gosh.
Yeah, I'm going elders, Judas, and then I'm going to go Herod,
okay,
and then I'm going to go Pilate,
okay,
and then the crowd.
okay, yeah.
Ooh, you're getting a lot of empathy to the crowd. I wouldn't. I'm gonna rank them higher.
I'm waiting on your list
I know.
right now.
I'm
Waiting.
trying to compile it, guys. This is slow output.
Should I give
kind
you
of
a
thing.
fun fact about Barabbas?
Yeah.
Some old manuscripts, and you have to do some homework. Don't trust me on this, but some manuscripts have his name as Jesus Barabbas,
I've seen that.
right?
Yep.
And so there's this whole folklore, whatever, that Jesus and Jesus Barabbas, they actually got switched, and real Jesus didn't really die on the cross. He got let go free. It's a whole weird thing, but yeah.
How do they reconcile with the rest of the
I
text?
know. I'm like, you have to ignore a lot of things, a lot of mental gymnastics. But it's interesting. The whole idea is that maybe his first name was also Jesus.
I've seen that. I
Yeah.
didn't know the part that.
Yeah, yeah. People think that it's switched, which I don't believe. But I'm just
Yeah.
stalling for Dusty here so that he can get his
You
list
really gonna
done.
make me answer right. I really don't like having to answer questions like this, guys, because I could change it depending on.
I know. I don't like it either. I just did
There's
it.
no
I just did it.
there's
All right,
no rules here. There's no one's getting
know.
married to these answers.
I know, except the internet remembers things forever. I would go Judas, elders. I would go crowd.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Herod. Who else? Who else?
Pilate?
Left? Pilate.
put Pilate? Okay.
Actually, a lot of them would take almost the same space. Like I don't know. Like a lot of them are interchangeable to me
It's
in
the
terms
most
of their
dusty
bad.
answer I've ever heard.
Yep. Thank you. Guys, there are no black and whites in these answers. All right.
right.
This is.
Listen, Pilate did his homework. He spent the most time with Jesus. He had the most conversation
Jared.
with
Who's Jared? Herod.
His brother.
Herod. What'd you say? What'd you say in the text? Right. Herod was waiting for this moment. Like he wanted to meet Jesus.
He wanted to meet Jesus.
He still.
Yeah, but he didn't spend as much time with. Like, I think the more time you spend with Jesus and then you still do that to Jesus, shame on you. So that's why I'm ranking these like, come on, Judas spent the most time, and you're going to do that to your man Jesus? That's cold, man.
Well, that's true. There's
That's
no doubt
cold.
about it.
Yeah, but if we sin in our own lives and we spend an awful lot of time with Jesus,
I know. I'm probably number one on that list, right?
Right.
If some days I feel that way.
I resonate
Yeah.
with what Paul says, right? Like we're all sinners, of which I'm chief amongst you. I feel that every day.
Chief of sinners. Yep.
Talk to me about your thought on the crowd for just a second. And are you in the camp that the same crowd that yelled Hosanna is the same crowd that crucified him?
No. It
I've
says
heard
in the
it.
text. It says in the text that it was his disciples who are cheering him on down into Jerusalem, cheering Hosanna. I don't think that's the same. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I probably agree with that. But I haven't really thought about it a whole lot.
My answer is a little bit more like I think there was probably some mix.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like they just, eventually people flip, I think, in that kind of,
What made them flip then so quickly?
with the fact that he's standing up there, Herod sent him back to Pilate, Pilate sent him back to Herod, they kind of caught up in the moment, like, oh my gosh, these people who are elders, right? This is the first time the elders took that real public stance against Jesus, right? So it's like, oh, our elders, the people who have been leading our tribe for so long, have now said he should die. And then Herod and Pilate and everybody up there saying he should die.
Pilate didn't say he should die.
He was the one that killed him, though.
Well, he's the one that gave in.
Right.
Yeah. But he didn't do it. He said this guy's innocent. Over and over. This is what blows my mind.
But the religious leaders said, gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just really the crowd that. I mean, Rome is a mob rule empire, after Caesar, but that's a whole other thing.
Have you seen the new Gladiator?
I am not.
We are all over the place.
We base our historical accuracy on
Oh man.
movies. It's good. It's good.
In the sermon, you talked about a couple of different I statements, right? Would you run through those for us?
If I can remember them. So we have the identity of Jesus. So I mean, that was whole, are you the king? Are you, the son of God, kind of thing. And so Jesus gives an affirmative in some ways to the elders.
Yeah.
I think by quoting out of Daniel, he does so. Like I said in the text, with Pilate, he doesn't actually do that. He basically says, "You say." I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I'm just being neutral, and so that probably doesn't make Pilate happy either. But so we have the identity of Jesus being, and to me, that's always the biggest issue when it comes to Christianity. Who is Jesus? So that's an important question to answer. So then you have the interrogation of Jesus. And so Pilate gets in with that. Herod gets in on that. And then you have I'm trying to think of the third eye of the four. Injustice was the fourth one. I'm blanking. Yeah. Sorry, internet podcast people. I'm totally blanking.
We just got a text from Jen that it's not streaming to Facebook anyway.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I know it's not.
Oh,
we'll
okay.
upload it in a second.
We'll get it there.
Once it's done.
We'll get there.
Our connection's not liking us today.
Injustice was the fourth one then.
Yes. And so injustice, I'll think of the third one after a minute, but injustice of Jesus, obviously, is the switch between Jesus and Barabbas, that Jesus goes as an innocent man, takes the place of the guilty man. And that is the gospel message, that he takes our place. So
this was the first time that I had heard the literal translation of the name Barabbas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was a really good.
Barabbas. Yeah. Yep.
Which you want to tell everybody what that is in case they missed it?
Yeah. So bar is means son of, and Abbas comes from Abba, father. So son of the father, and lots of different ways that you could think about this in the text as far as what that means and how that can relate to us. But in the sermon, I mentioned that Jesus loved Barabbas enough to take his place, and God loved Barabbas, even though Barabbas was a murderer. Even though we have nothing in the text to suggest that he actually came to faith afterwards. There's no stories. There's not even any lores of like Barabbas coming around. But despite all that, Jesus still loved him. And why does Jesus love him? Because he wanted him to become a son of the Father, right? And so
I love it.
Yeah.
How do you guys deal with loving your enemies? I feel like that's a major theme of this part of the text, right? Jesus he could have very easily stirred the fires. He could have done a lot of things in this moment.
Yeah.
But instead he surrendered and loved. What's that look like in your guys' life? Any thoughts?
I mean, it's a super personal thing. It revolves fully around you and your ability to let go of your feelings towards someone else, right? Because, what's that saying that everybody always says, like when you hold a hatred against somebody, you're really only poisoning yourself because it's not really affecting them anyways. So like I think back where it says in scripture, to pray for your enemies. And what's that really mean? I think it just means, hey, it's up to us to do the hard work of the heart to release grudges. It may not ever change how someone else feels about you, but it will change you. Right. To just have a heart that lets things go and focuses on what really matters. Because I know people, very close to me that have spent giant chunks of their life, disassociating with people and killing relationships just because somebody did something that wronged them. And like this, I've seen in some cases go on for decades at this point. And it's like, man, that's a poison pill right there. It's not making you any better. It's not making them any better. It's just, at that point, what do you have to gain from that? So I'm not saying I'm great at that, but like I've seen the downside of it so much, like I just don't want to. Like I don't have enough capacity to hold that kind of hatred toward anybody. I don't think. It's too much work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Just in the text, you can just kind of see him taking on, I think, throughout the role of just the guilty person, even though he wasn't guilty.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful, that he's willing to put himself in that place, physically and probably emotionally and everything else. But I don't have much more to say. I think Dusty said a lot of what I would say too. So,
Well, like, Jesus is setting that divine example too, right? For us, like knowing his role in history and, in what he is there to do. Like, he knew how that was going to end, before it came, like he saw that coming. But, like it's an example, even if you don't believe in anything about scripture, like you could study the life of Jesus and still come off with so much that will make you a better person. Now, I say it's devoid of any power without the actual transformative work of Jesus in your life. But still, even if you only look at it as a historical or literary example, it's still amazingly powerful.
I think that's why solitude is so important, right? That in the act of solitude, we really get to practice surrender, and that whole idea that I think that's what we see from Jesus in the garden before all this happens. Like the prep, when I take a step back, and that's one of the gifts of going through the text the way that we are, just, piece by piece, is that, man, you really get to see, like, he was really prepared. Like, he was prepared with the Father. His heart was prepared. And, we never know when those crucifixion moments are going to come in our life, those moments where the enemies are going to be against us and crowds are going to be forming and all of that. We never know. So we have to be prepared.
Yeah. You could tell, like, even in the text, as far as, like, he was starting to talk about this stuff, a lot earlier on. And that's what I appreciated about the show, The Chosen, where you could see in the series, like, the weight of the cross begins to just gets heavier. The idea of, like, this is where he's headed, and he knows he's heading there. And that preparation, as you were mentioning, just it happens a lot earlier than what we may think. So yeah,
it's good. Good closing thoughts on the scripture this week.
It's a Christmas message for us all.
It's just, man, I'm hoping people walk away. Most people in our church probably have heard this story before.
Yeah.
But it's a great reminder of the gospel. And as I mentioned, the idea of putting ourselves in the place that we are guilty. We were under sentence, and putting your place in our shoes, putting your feet in the shoes of a prisoner is hard for us to do in a kind of a literal thing, because most of us have never been in prison or know anything of that world. But that's who we were, that we were prisoners, and he set us free. And there's just so many powerful images that you can go with that. But the freedom that Jesus wants us to experience, I think, is something that I'm hoping people remember. And we took the whole year of Free in 23, and I just want to refresh that. Like, if you feel enslaved, if you feel chained, Jesus wants you to be free, and he's willing to take your place to do that.
So good.
Yeah.
And this week
coming up. This week
one.
So I'm sorry if I don't have all the things in my head. Innocence was the other I, by the way. But I'm talking on the crucifixion this week. So very powerful. Yeah. Yep.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Well, guys, as always, we appreciate you being here, our church family. If there's anything that we can do to walk alongside you, please don't hesitate to let us know. We would also love to pray for you. So if you have any prayer requests, feel free to email them or message us on Facebook. As always, our number one goal is to dive deeper in community and make sure no one walks alone. We'll see you guys next week.